Howdy! Today we're channeling our inner private Daniel Jackson with this M1903A3 replica, currently in a A4 configuration. It's made by S&T. It's 112 centimeters long and it weighs 2.9 kilos. Let's go from the tip to butt, as always. Here I remove the front side. Let's move on. It's made out of real wood, full metal. Here we have a working safety, bolt safety. When you flip it to the right, you cannot pull the trigger. Flip it to the left, you can pull the trigger all the way. Here we have a magazine stop. If you flip it down, then you cannot pull the bolt back. Lift it and it can move. So here we insert our magazine, pull the catch back, lift the floor plate, insert the magazine down here, and if you want to release it, push this button. It's the only button in there, so now we have a catch, a small door in the butt pad. You can open it. We have a small storage compartment in here. Now, let's do a quick overview of if there's anything steel on this replica. Let's go from the front. No, nothing here. Stacking swivel. No, nothing. Yeah, the screw, yeah. But more luck with this front handguard band. It's metal, steel, and this clip as well, retaining clip for the handguard. And the rear handguard band, also made out of steel, and the spring that retains it as well. Moving on to the receiver. This clip, it's not made out of steel, no joy. The receiver is pot metal, however the cylinder is made out of steel. Nice. Floor plate, nope, nothing. Trigger guard, nothing. Trigger, nothing. Cocking lever, bolt handle, nothing. Safety cocking piece, nothing. Let's move on to the butt pad. Yeah, the screws are steel. And that's it. Rear sling swivel is made out of steel, and it can accept a real M1907 leather sling with no problems. The wood is typical Chinese wood, a bit soft but workable. Now, since we're talking about an Airsoft replica here, there were some issues I had to deal with. First off, on the bottom of the cocking piece there's a small screw. It was unscrewing constantly, so Loctite. Next off, the original S&T scope mount. I had to grind it around the ejection port so it looks nicer, because it wasn't very realistic in its original form. And I had to shorten it down here on the back side because it was grinding against the bolt handle when installed. Now moving forward, there was a lot of play between the receiver and the outer barrel. Now if I bang on it, it rings. It's not, you can't hear it, but it vibrates. The whole piece vibrates now. Because I put a small piece of plastic, you can see it here poking out. between the receiver and the outer barrel, so it's centered and very stable. And the last issue on the upper, well, internals, is that I had to shorten the hop-up lever because it was poking out of the stock, and if you grab it just the right way, you move the lever, so that took care of that. I also had some problems with the wooden parts. Here on the top handguard, this retaining clip was wiggling on the replica, so I had to glue it on. Here we have two metal pins that lock into the stock, so it doesn't move about much. Here we have the two spacer clips, or I don't know what they were for, but they're steel. Now the actual stock, you can see these two blobs of plastic. They were needed so the outer barrel was stable in the stock once the barrel bands were installed. It's quite a lot of plastic here, a few millimeters in the front and double that here on the back. Also, the stock is made out of two parts, split here. When I got it, it was held together with a wooden dowel with no glue inside, so you could just pull it apart. So I glued it together. Now it's stable. Moving on to the last fix here, the door on the butt pad. You can open it with your nail now because I sanded it down. You can see I tapered it quite a bit, so there's space for your nail and you can pull it out. Never pull out. For the internals, we have a good news, bad news situation here. Good news, most of the parts are VSR10 compatible. And the bad news is you'll probably have to replace all of them eventually. Let's start with the hop-up unit. It can accept VSR10 hop-up rubbers and inner barrels. Yay! Mine was shooting stock about 1.3 joules with 0.3 ohs. Once I replaced the hop-up rubber with a cheap one, I think Army, for 2 euros, really cheap one. Once I did that, my joule rating jumped to 1.9 joules, so nice improvement. The original barrel is almost, it is 500 millimeters long. It goes almost all the way to the end of the outer barrel, which is unnecessary. The cylinder is 22 millimeters on the outside, and the internal diameter is 20 millimeters. And the length of travel is 60 millimeters. Now, if you calculate that, that's a really small air volume for the cylinder. If you were to calculate the optimal barrel length for it, it's around 300 millimeters. So, not a especially appropriate host for a sniper rifle. Maybe a DMR. The good news is it can take a VSR10 spring. So, yeah. And now for the last part, we have a trigger. It uses a 45-degree trigger with an added safety here in the back. I think maybe even a trigger box would fit, VSR10 trigger box, but don't hold me to that. Here, this is not an original sear set. Mine broke after installing an M1903A3 spring into the cylinder. This is an SHS sear set, and it fits with no problems. Now, the last mod I did was I shimmed the trigger. You can see it has some movement left to right, but not as much as stock. The stock, it was probably close to 2 centimeters. I mean, it was silly how much movement it had. Now it's much nicer. Okay, let's do some shooting. Load the rifle up, insert the magazine in, push until it clicks, close the door. Let's see the bolt cycling. If you lift it up, 90 degree throw, pull it back, 60 millimeter travel, it clears the scope, bang. Repeat. It uses a 45-degree trigger arrangement, so you need to keep the bolt, the cylinder, lubed pretty well, and the piston, so it cycles more easily. I'm currently using a M1903A3 spring, and it's doing well, but I had to replace the sear. Let's take a look at the trigger. It has no wall, so you basically just pull, and it breaks. It surprises you every time, so you can't prime it. Stock, it was a pretty poor performer. It was a good assault rifle, battle rifle, ready. It was able to lift 0.30s, but the joule output was 1.3 joules. But it can take all sorts of VSR-10 upgrades, so you can get it up to a DMR performance, not a full sniper rifle. I have mounted a simple air rifle scope on it. It cost me about 15 euros. Half of it is plastic, but it's very close to the period correct scope that was used on it. I actually hit something. Okay, that's it.